Got it. Wonderful. All right. Cool beans. Andrea, this is amazing. I'm just going to set this up. I'm going to spotlight you. Look at that. Look at that radiant, beautiful Andrea right there in her penthouse over in Los Angeles, which is amazing. Site of many parties, lots of successes, lots of capital that's been raised there. We've had parties there before with people who you know on here who could be named such as Max Gockman and some other celebrities too, which has been great. And
are you going to be able to see you whenever you talk? So you're not just spotlighting me. Okay. Because I see you twice. I see you twice. We got
I know. I have to do is I'm going to add the spotlight here, but I'm going to stop the video here.
Okay, got it.
How's that? Is that better?
That's much better. Fantastic.
Woo. All right. We have 3 people we're letting in. So so here's a funny story about something that came up the other day. And it's the reason why I wrote the book. But somebody the other day I was having a conversation with, and he was telling me, I was talking about the deals that we were doing. And he said, he sounds awful, but he's from Southern California. He's in San Diego. I'd known him for a while. And, I was telling him about some of the deals that we're doing and some of the Class A real estate that we're in and some of the other things that we like playing with. Sorry, we have more people coming on. Sorry, guys. Okay. Admit. All right. Joining. And he has a brother-in-law who I guess is a stockbroker. And I was out there and I was talking to him and I said to him, so, your friend here who he's your stockbroker, you have all this money you sold your technology company for $10 million. What are you going to do? And he's like, well, my partner over there, he didn't say partner, but he's like my good friend, my buddy, he's a surfing buddy. He works at Raymond James. And Sal, you're a nice guy and you're funny and everything like that, but I can get in the same deals that you can. And I'm like, oh boy. I'm like, this is not going to be a good conversation. So time went on, and then he told me about his new car that he bought. He bought a new Ferrari. And me being a little, Andre, you know me long enough, I can be a little cutting sometimes, not necessarily a bad way. I said, it's awesome. You got a Ferrari, it's custom and everything like that. I said, let me ask you a question. He's like, yeah. And he thought I was going to ask him a question about like the engine or the components. I said, what is community college Colin driving? The one who's the stockbroker with all this great advice. And at that point, the conversation just went whoop. It just went absolutely nowhere. It was pretty funny actually, because I ask these questions all the time, and that's why I was gravitated towards Beverly Hills Publishing, because of course we wanted to get that story out. So let's get started here. We got more people coming in. We got a bunch of qualified people here who have known us for years. If you don't know who I am, my name is Sal Buscemi. You've known me for many, many years as an author, obviously, but also as a money manager, successful track records, and putting together a pretty tight culture between 2 firms that I had CEO of, Danju Partners, which is my personal investment platform, which has been around for about 20 years, and that runs the Encore Ventures, the venture fund. And then there's also there's other one aspect of it too, which is HRN, which is more life sciences focused, and that's a multifamily office. And a few years ago, I've been an author before, and I've went with other publishers, and let's just say they didn't really deliver on their promises, if that makes sense. So I was very cynical going into, starting, if you will, a personal brand, getting into this business of someone who might not have taken the art of my messaging clearly enough or seriously enough. And that's where we started talking to people. And I think it was for like a year, Andrea and I courted each other, talking about this, the things I was thinking about and all the other things that that I wanted to sort of solve for. And that's something that we'll get into. And finally, it happened just shortly out of personal, the tragedy, but I was, alone with some friends in the Hamptons. I remember this, Andrea, and I just basically said, you know what, I'm going to go to the bank and send you the wire. I'm bored out here, might as well start the book. And, that started the whole process and the movement. And the whole reason why we're here today is to celebrate the successes of that, not just monetarily, but also in other ways too, relational, which a lot of people here, don't really see today. This has been a popular, we're sort of getting a lot of people here for Wednesday. This is great. I apologize if I am not looking directly in the camera. However, I do see all of you. Thank you for joining all of us. So what I want to do here today is I want to go through the successes to the people here, especially our higher end investors and entrepreneurs, because the people who are gravitated towards us are entrepreneurs who are already rich, and they're looking for something greater, something else to do in life. They're looking for that next step. And a lot of that stuff has, sorry about that, somebody's texting in right now. A lot of that success has been due to the fact that we've been able to cultivate a message and build a following. And that's kind of hard to do. Not everybody can do that without parental supervision. And one of the reasons why I decided to publish my third book with Andrea is because she got the message. She was passionate about the message, of course, but she was also one of them too. And that's very important, because a lot of times you see people who, yeah, I'm starting a publishing business, but a lot of things that I was gravitated towards when working with Andrea is the fact that she's an owner operator of her own business, very successful. She's in the media. She's obviously been on the cover girl, for several, fitness magazines and everything, but she's been able to use that marketing, which is so important and so consequential, especially in the world today, where everything is relational and not transactional. And that's really the whole, couple more people here. That's really the premise here, is to really show the alchemy behind how we were able to hack Amazon and do a lot of other kinky things, which we'll get into, but how I was able to really build a tremendous base of followers who gave us a lot of money to invest, only because I didn't have to repeat the same story again, why I'm not like community college dropout Colin at Raymond James, who can get you all these same deals as I can, supposedly. So it was very well put together. It was wonderful the way it went through. I got to be honest with you, because people really liked it. And there was an essence to it too that had much more of a novel storytelling to it as well. And I don't want to steal all of Andrea's thunder here. I really owe her a tremendous debt of gratitude for the success of this book, because besides just writing the book, everybody wants to be the next J.K. Rowling or something like that. But I had a totally different agenda, which we'll talk about. And we hit the nail on the head, to say the least. And a year later, I'm very proud to say that, working with Andrea and Beverly Hills Publishing, going through the trials and tribulations and everything required to get a book off the ground like this, especially when you have, superstars in your book that you're interviewing, it really takes a lot of depth. And Andrea, I want to introduce you to the crowd here. You have many people here who are been investing with us for years. They trust me. They've read the book. They like it. They're on here because probably they're kind of sort of thinking, maybe going into the season here, that they want to write a book and it's time to do it. And a lot of people have just asked the same question: how are you able to pull it off? How do you know me? How come I get your emails if I bought it through here and Amazon fulfilled it? I don't understand it, but we'll get into that later. But I really like to introduce Andrea here. She is the CEO. Andrea Albright is the CEO, founder of Beverly Hills Publishing. She is an author herself of several books, and she's launched several successful entrepreneurs using books as a lever for legitimacy in order to build their businesses, whether that's something in, I think you were talking about a client that was moving credit banks into crypto. There's an authority piece that was written on it, but she exceeds in putting together people in a way where you become an authority figure and you have that immediate elevation of status. And in my business, it's not enough just to have a pedigree, because there's a lot of guys like me, who are funny and worked at Goldman Sachs and had their own funds before 30. But how do you really differentiate that? And that's something that Andrea was really able to help me do, as we were pivoting and starting this new family office construct called HRN.
Yes, thank you. And that is one thing that I pride myself on at our company, is that I do all the marketing strategy with the clients first, because I have an ability to see where the market is evolving, where the market is going. And so by doing the marketing first, what we are able to do is make sure that there is a target market who is looking for solutions that your book is providing. And this is completely opposite than the old-fashioned publishing approach of writing a book and then hoping somebody wants to buy it. And so by doing the marketing strategy first, we aligned with who is your ideal target market? Who is the person who in your situation is going to invest with you? And the
Correct.
book is the beginning conversation. And so yes, we want book sales, but it's so much more. It's about beyond the book. When they read the book, they know you, they trust you, and they say, yes, I want to invest with you. So having that very clear, specific marketing strategy of the target market from the very beginning, when we write the book, we know exactly who we're talking to and who we're speaking to, which makes the book writing process so much smoother and easier, because you're not in a monologue with yourself, you're in a dialogue. You're actually able to know who are we speaking to. And look at the success rate. I mean, didn't you say that,
Yeah.
Everyone who reads your book wants to invest with you?
Well, it's easier because when you said when people read a book, they internalize it, and it's the key things in the book that they remember and they come back to you with, and that's sort of like the hook in their mind. They're like, and they'll bring this up too, and they'll send an email like, it's interesting in your book you said that too. I'm glad to see that you're actually walking the talk here and everything. So it establishes the boundaries of the relationship, but that also builds implicit trust, because people are looking for leaders, and if you lay out a certain things or the guidebook of how things should be done, then that's going to capture a lot more attention.
Yes, books are powerful. People ask me all the time, like, are people still reading books? Yes. And
Oh, yeah.
we are actually looking for, as you said, leaders. We're looking for authorities in the industry. We're looking for, how do we get the shortcut in the fastest way possible? And we are distrusting, other types of leaders, like political leaders. But when you can find an authority, someone who has written a book, and that's where the word author comes from. It comes from the word authority. And so
Okay.
you are the authority in your subject and your industry. And by having that book, you immediately bypass all their skepticism, and because they can go straight to, oh, I trust you. And that gives them a shortcut, so they don't have to go and search for who can I follow and who can I trust.
No, and now all of a sudden you become much more prominent to them because you've spoken to them in a way that they can understand and relate to, and that builds bonding and that builds the relation. I think today people forget, and maybe you can help me with this, but I think in the world of there's sort of like a crisis in the country today of a lot of people who went into crypto were forced to grow up, or maybe they have been in a very transactional world today where everything is buy, sell, buy, sell. And entrepreneurs are not in a transactional, they're not in a transactional business whatsoever. It's all relational. And the book is the way that tells, and somebody actually told me this. They actually told me that it actually showed that I was warm enough, that I was more relational than anyone else, because a lot of them are a bunch of beefed up financial advisors, putting a bunch of math into a book where they published it with someone who they didn't know, paid a fortune, got nowhere with it. But compared to this, it sort of gave them a little bit more of a rigid foundation for them to build that trust and credibility with, and legitimacy for me in their eyes. And that's really what it is that it builds legitimacy, right? People are craving for legitimacy today. They'll do all sorts of stupid things to find it, but the easy way to do it today is just to write a book, really.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I discovered. And that's why helping people to know, not just any book, but like you have experienced, that targeted book of how is it going to get a multi-million-dollar return of investment?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I sent it to all my CEOs. I sent it to all my investors. A lot of people bought it. I was surprised we priced it higher, and that was a good idea because we didn't want to come across as rich dad, poor dad, right? Because we want the rich kids, not the poor kids. So it worked out really well to do that. And Andrea was smart with it. Remember, books always permanently sell, and that's the most important part of it too, is that once it's out there, sort of like a record, the royalties come in, and it's amazing. One of the things that we had to solve for, and I would hope if you can go a little deep into this would be great, is if you're going to write a book and you put all the time into it, you got to really figure out, what are you serving for? What are you really trying to accomplish here? And I think a lot of people think when they start to write a book that, like, oh my gosh, I have to make all this money back. They do math where they think they have to sell their book for like $4.95 and all this where they have to recapture it. But really what we were solving for was something totally different. Because if I'm writing a book and people are reading it, I want to build that relationship. And so not everybody that buys a book gives you their email address, right, Andrea? Certainly not Jeff Bezos, correct? So do you want to talk about how the marketing goes into this and some of the alchemy that Andrea at Beverly Hills Publishing went into in order to maybe how the real value of the book came in through that specific function of building media. Everybody has a personal brand today if you are an entrepreneur. Your brand, as Andrea told me, is your promise, but you really have to make sure that that's developed well. And, you know, obviously being an author does that. But do you want to talk a little bit about the alchemy behind what you were able to do, the magic? I can tell you, my book has done wonders for gathering AUM. I mean, we have raised in the millions, you know, for the venture stuff that we do that is very niche and everything. We've been able to effortlessly raise in the millions for that type of stuff. Obviously, real estate's a different animal, only because we have been able to communicate basically our culture and what our expectations are in that book that I wrote, which was basically an invitation to join our society, and it worked out really well. So one of the things people are asking, like, this is people, I'm still admitting people here. One of the people wanted to know, they're saying this is really great. How, of course, I've been the leader and I go through this and everybody follows along with it. But if people were to start to work with you, say, towards the end of the month, could they really get their book out before Christmas? That's the question that came up. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. I mean,
Okay.
in fact, this is the perfect time to launch a book, because towards the end of the year, more people are looking to invest in themselves. They start to think, oh my gosh, the year is almost over. I haven't done anything with my year. And they're looking at, what can I do? And so this is why so many books are, and personal development programs and financial growth programs and solutions are launched at this time of year, is because people are looking for solutions before they have yet another year that goes by without them moving their goals forward.
I mean, that just bothers me. Like, the whole point of it, and the reason why I started this time of year is because business is a little light for me this time of year, not now, but in years past, it's usually a little light. But it was also, you know, everybody's on vacation. They're already thinking about doing something. They're already thinking about, did I finish my goals for the year yet? Did I hit my weight goals? Did I do this? Did I do that? You know, and it motivates you to get something done before the end of the year, and then you can have your own Black Friday sale, maybe, you know, who knows? But, you know, the point is, the sooner you get through it, the faster it is. Andrea makes it effortless, and I can say that, and I only complicate things, and I do a good job of complicating things, but let's face it here. But you were able to really rein it in, and that was an experience that, compared to other authors that I've worked with, they really didn't give a crap. You know, it was just like, yeah, we'll do it, we'll ghostwrite it. There were terms that were wrong, you know, things were misquoted. It was really a heartbreak, because you put your heart and soul into this. And one of the things I remember is that you and I had like a book opening package, and we recorded it. It was the first book that was published, and it came out, and it was this big, you know, hula and everything like that. And it was really neat, because it is an experience when you do this and you're proud of it, and it really impresses a lot of people, which is great. Another person wanted to know if they have to take delivery of 5. Yeah, sure, go ahead.
I just wanted to say something about that. So, you know, writing a book is a big deal. Becoming a published author, Sal, you have already published multiple books before. The minute you become a published author, people see you differently. The world respects you in a new way. It changes everything. And, you know, there are many people who want to write a book. It's like those life goals. You get married, you have kids, you write a book. And so when I see the vision of you becoming a published author, I'm so passionate about it, because I know that not only are we going to be impacting the market and influencing the audience and changing their lives for the better, the author's life is forever transformed. And just hearing success stories of people saying, oh my gosh, your book changed my life. And anything I put my brand and my publishing moniker on, I'm going to give my heart and soul to it as well.
Every time you see me speak at a family office conference, I have at least 20 books with me in a duffel bag that I either sell or give away to people. And when you're at a conference, remember, somebody's always bored on an airplane. And 9 times out of 10, I say, hey, I scanned through your book on the airplane. I remember the first party we had when you launched your Ben House. We had it with Max, and there were a bunch of guys from the Milken conference who were there. And they were all going back to Singapore and Asia. And they were reading my book on the way there. I actually liked it. So it actually worked out well. But I always keep in my glove compartment too, as well, because you never know who you're going to meet. It's a business card. You have to think of it that way. And, you know, I have a very unique message, as you all do. And that's really the most important part of it. But every time I go to a conference, I always ship to the hotel like 25 books, or I bring my own. The thing too with Andrea, which is great, is that you don't have to worry about holding or shipping or anything. She actually has the print on demand. So you're actually just you just see money come to your account, which is the great thing about it operationally. You don't have to do anything. Now I do sign autograph purchases and autographs on special edition through my own private stock. But for the most part, when people buy, it's just taken care of and the money just sent right to me, the profit. So it's really well done, so that you can there is a profit margin at the beginning of these books. For those who are business oriented, think you're not going to make any money, that's absolutely wrong. If you really do want to make a lot of money on this, you got to talk to Andrea about marketing it correctly, because that's how you're going to be able to do it. Yeah.
Being a published author is a big deal. A book is a big deal. And
no, it's a huge deal.
Well, we could go back into like, well, why it's such a big deal. And obviously this is what I'm so passionate about, is books are the form of enlightenment. Before we ever had any kind of printing press, we used to have scholars who would dedicate their life to capturing information. And these were the scrolls. And so then we had the printing press, which literally brought us out of the dark ages. So humanity was going into superstition and fear. And if it weren't for books and the improvement of literacy, then we wouldn't have humanity as we know it. This is what led to the Renaissance. And now we have the digital information age. And so books continue to be that authority building status sign that you are sharing something that is here enlightening humanity. And so, yes, being a published author, I mean, there's very few things in life that people will really gather around you and say, wow, you are doing something extraordinary and meaningful. And thank you for sharing your wisdom and knowledge with the world.
I know. And it's legitimacy too, right? Like I can go to the south of France and take photos of an expensive vacation. But what all those people are worrying about on vacation is, what haven't I finished yet? And it's always more impressive to do something that shows a little bit more of your own dexterity, right? Than it is to, people look for legitimacy in different ways, but there's nothing that creates legitimacy faster that I've seen, besides owning a major sports team, being a hedge fund manager, or publishing a book, right? Or, a cover model like Andrea was, or a superstar. That's really what it is. And I think when you look at it that way, it really puts yourself not just over your peers, but it puts you in a whole different class in your industry. I really did want to disrupt it a little bit. And I said, if there's one person who can get away with it, it's probably me. And we did a hell of a job with it. I mean, we really, really did. So I owe you a huge debt of gratitude, because it really, really helped us define the message. And, I can tell everybody who reads the book either wants to invest with us or doesn't have enough, or does invest with us. And the reason is because they get the full picture now. All their answers that I didn't even think about answering, the questions to Andrea had, she was able to pull out of me, and that brought a lot of value out of it. Because you have to forget that you have your own ego here, and you want to look smart, but the other person doesn't really care. They want to care if you're penetrating them with your thoughts and your stories, first and foremost, to keep them entertained. And Andrea did a lot with that. Andrea, how can people get in touch with you if they want to follow in the footsteps of Sal, Marco, your other clients, and all the other people, who are looking to maybe release their book before Christmas and impress a few people? People are asking some questions here.
Yes, well, I'd love to answer all the questions, anything we've got time for. And you can go to beverlyhillspublishing.com and fill out an application. I'd love to hear from you.
Hillspublishing.com. All right, perfect. Yeah, I think it's really great doing this. Do we have any questions here?
You never actually shared the stats of the book to date. So
no. Oh my gosh. Okay. We sold 3,000 books, and at a $47 price point, that was a lot. Some of those were purchased by me to give to people, which is fine. But that is, to me, it's not enough to buy my new boat yet. But the money that is enough to buy a new boat comes in the form of the investors that have come to us, and in the back end that we'll be making on all the equity recognition on our deals. And what it's done for us too is that it's actually put it together in a way where we're able to close on deals much faster, where a lot of people, they have a deal open for 3 months. Here, Albert and I are closing things in 3 weeks. We actually, the investors who came into our deal that is headed by a by a Nobel Prize winner named Apricity Health, we were able, because we mentioned things in the book, they were immediately gravitated towards it. We were able to raise an incredible amount of money in 4 days for that, close to $1 million. And I can tell you one thing about life sciences is that it is very difficult to raise money for. If you can raise money for life sciences, you can raise money for everything because people don't want to pay attention to it. But Andrea taught me to be able to do this, to tell a story narrative that actually built the community where people had that trust to invest into these things. And that was really that was very, very precious. The AUM will continue to come in. I was able to use that book to raise millions of dollars in the most difficult investments that nobody wants to invest in, which are life sciences. And to me, that's just the beginning. Anything else is just gravy after that. And that's really the magic that you were able to do, was to identify those people to become part of our club and our society. And you've helped it grow so much. And for that, I'm really, 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 and it takes a lot to impress me being this New Yorker. But to be honest with you, we were very impressed with it. And it caught a lot of notice too, because there's a lot of people here who are watching this and making note of this too.
I think that's great. I mean, and considering it's just the first year in, and this book will continue to grow the business, target exactly who you are wanting to reach. And we designed and published the book to last 10, 15, 20 years of value creation for your business.
Yeah, the book is evergreen. And the next book we'll probably be doing is about on sports ownership. So once I start tying down certain people, we'll start working on that. And actually, the deal we're working on right now is a result of the book. If you guys are paying attention, AI Scout, which is one of the deals that we were looking at right now, has come to us as a result of that book from the Chicago cabal. So that's really, really cool. So the book is influencing our deal flow too. Holy crap, that's actually a big deal. That's actually a big deal when you think about it, because when you talk about deal sourcing, a lot of people don't source deals well, but when you write a book, people want to give you the best deals because they perceive you to be the best and the authority in your class, which is great. I have a question here. Somebody wants to know, and this is actually interesting. Can you have Andrea talk about the direct PR relationships that are internally part of this company? Oh yeah, so people are like, Sal, did she get you an entrepreneur? That's a good point. Can you elaborate on that, please?
Yeah, I mean, well, why don't you share?
Okay, so I'm going to tell you. So Andrea, after I published the book, because of her PR dedication, relationships, and probably being in LA, she was able to get me placed as a authority. What do you call it? A contributor, right? A real contributing author to entrepreneur.com. And I've already published, I think, 5 articles. I have another one that's going out soon. There's more book sales that come into it because it says at the bottom, who's this guy that wrote this book? Oh, I want to go here, and then you can see. But that's a huge plus too. You'd be able to do that, not just for me. I know you like me and everything, but you'd be able to do that for all your clients, right? I mean, that's not exactly easy to do.
Yes, well, it's all about that book that we positioned from the beginning. And so once you become a published author, I am also a contributor for entrepreneur.com, and we have a great relationship with them. And so we position you to be not just featured in an article, but like you said, to actually be a contributor. So these are your thought leadership pieces that are being published on a major media platform like entrepreneur.com. And that is what builds that authority positioning. And so when you get to say, hey, as seen on Entrepreneur, and also you send that article out to your network, this is where people see, oh, I do want to work with you. You are a true thought leader. And every time you publish an article on entrepreneur.com or Forbes.com or any of these major media outlets, people recognize you as an authority and they will read that content. So it's part of our positioning strategy. And that's why we do the marketing, the publishing, and the PR all in one firm, so that the strategy is carried throughout. Versus if you were to just go and hire a publicist, they wouldn't know anything about your book. And by having a publisher to actually help you to write your articles and position you to be on these platforms, it's one streamlined strategy that works for you to get that authority positioning as quickly as possible. Okay,
nobody does that in the industry. Forbes doesn't do that. Advantage, he's now Forbes doesn't do that. No other publisher does that. And I can't tell you how important that is, because you guys read my emails, you see that I'm on TV. That's because of Andrea's influence.
Yes, wonderful. And that's the key to the positioning to make you an authority, because a publisher that they're only a publisher who doesn't understand digital marketing is never going to be able to actually help you promote or sell your book. And because I am an internet marketer since 2006, I know exactly how to build funnels and how to create the marketing strategy so that we capture the market. And then by adding on the PR, this is where that authority positioning comes. Because if you aren't being interviewed by major media outlets, then you're not considered an authority. And so we want to get you that PR positioning so that your book has the greatest impact and that people see, wow, this is somebody who I want to learn from and follow. And I learned that in order to really serve my authors, I need to do all of it. I need to do the digital marketing, the publishing, and the PR. And that's why it's all in one firm.
I can tell you there's nothing more disheartening personally than publishing a book and not seeing anyone buy it. You know, you feel like a loser. You're like, I got wet for nothing, and here are all these books, and it's like, who, you know, nobody's reading it. And that's why, you know, you got to deal with someone that, you know, you got to choose someone that has PR experience. There's a lot of people that do PR. Not all PR is the same. I can tell you, their PR comes in different shapes and forms. And if they don't look like Andrea, they probably don't have experience in PR because they probably have gray hair and don't really understand things. So you have to be kind of relevant too. I hate to say it that way, but I think there's a lot of relevancy that you bring to the PR because you've identified these trends, but also because of just who you are, being a marketer all your years and just being a fantastic businesswoman, building and scaling a lot of these businesses, right? One person here writes, has several people that I want to hear this show. How can I get a copy of the show? This is being recorded. It'll be distributed by email shortly. And I'm also going to post a link to perhaps to LinkedIn so you guys can see this as well. You guys will really appreciate this. That's really, really good stuff. I've had a lot of fun. If people have questions, we'll open it up for questions right now. But I think, you know, people really wanted to get behind the numbers here and see, you know, what the success has been with this book, because all I do is talk about it. It's good to have that attention coming in. You don't want to be the person searching for that attention. For example, there's a person who has 1 million followers on Instagram. She wants to write a book. She will see a recording of this, but she wants to do a podcast on finance because what she got from the book was that it was very easy for her to understand finance in a way that nobody ever told her about it before. So that to me is important. That builds a relationship, that builds some sort of a connection, the understanding. And the rest is me hopefully having 1 million followers one day. But who knows? I don't need to be that famous. Wonderful.
Well, you can take it as far as you want. That's the great thing about building your own personal brand is whenever you have an audience of loyal followers, they continue to feed you. And it's, you know, I think it's so rewarding to be in business knowing that you are serving and helping people. And that's what we have as possibility today because of how we can directly connect with our audience.
And that's the most important part. Do not write a book if you're not going to know who your media is or who your buyers are. It'll just break your heart. And that's why you want to work with Andrea. Please go to beverlyhillspublishing.com now before your next meal to fill out the application to become cool like Sal. Please do it. It's a great time. We'll invite you to the parties. If you sign up, we'll invite you to Milken next year. I've had a tremendous amount of success. I had a lot of fun. It's therapeutic for me writing a book after I had to deal with some personal issues, losing my mom, but it kept me grounded and it also created a tremendous amount of inertia with relationships, getting into deals, working with people. Quite frankly, I probably would not have been able to get into as quickly if I had not written the book. And I got to be honest with that. I got to be honest. The book really broke through a lot of barriers for me. For that, I'm very grateful to Andrea. She is the Brahmin when it comes to publishing and digital media. For her, we thank her for that. And I'm just looking here to see if there's anything else. I think we'll wrap this up here. Andrea, you are a pleasure and a privilege to talk to and interview with. As soon as I'm in LA, I'll let you know. But this has been absolutely wonderful, and we'll be in touch. Please go to beverlyhillspublishing.com, fill out the application, and become a published author. It's nothing sexier than that, right? Think about it.
Yeah,
so it's worked really well. They say everybody. Somebody told me once, I shouldn't say this. Everybody has a book in them. Only assholes have 2, and I'm like, well, I have 3. What does that mean? So anyway.
Well, Sal, it is such a pleasure to be here with you. It's my honor to be your publisher and your partner and celebrating your phenomenal success. And I know that this is just the beginning. So let's continue to hear about it. And you're making the impact with your message and your business. And that's what gives me so much joy and satisfaction. And thank you for everyone who's been watching. And I can't wait to hear from you.
You draw a good following here. Yes.
Sal, can I ask one question?
Sure, of course, Marvin. Go ahead.
Thanks, buddy. As a client, fellow author, and now managing partner of the company, I want to hear one thing that we didn't talk about, which is in most cases, when an author goes and does a publishing deal, they don't own any of the creative rights and any of the IP.
Oh, Christ. Yeah. That's a very good point. So that was actually something with some of my guest authors that came up, Marvin, and that's a good point that you brought it up with, who owns this stuff. And they actually did a background check on Andrea, which is interesting. Andrea, can you talk about that, please?
Yes, so I stand for an author revolution, and that means that I'm here supporting authors and I want them to own their intellectual property. And so while I am your publisher and you get all the advantages of being a published author through Beverly Hills Publishing, we do not take your intellectual property. So you own 100% of all of your IP, and also that means all the sales and the royalties are all in for you and your business. So we're just your publishing partner, and hopefully you become a success story like Sal, because that's our partnership for helping me to disrupt the $100 billion publishing industry that is just outdated and authors are being taken advantage of. And I stand for an author revolution where the authors continue to keep control of their intellectual property.
Yeah, and that's important too today. I mean, we see other forms of this, like record companies with rock stars, like, setting their albums on fire, protesting. You don't have that with Andrea, and that's a very, very good point. Thank you, Marvin, for bringing that up. Yes, you own all of your content through and through, and that's very important. You control the content, it's copyrighted, and it's just absolutely amazing. Perfect. Thank you for that. All right. Anyone else have any questions there? No? That's it. This has been wonderful. All right. Well, this has been a great Zoom show. I'm your host, Sal. Thank you. Thank you, Andrea, for joining us again. And if you have any questions, you can reach me. I'll give a great testimonial, of course, if you call me. But you want to go to beverlyhillspublishing.com first, beverlyhillspublishing.com first, to fill out the application to become a publisher soon. You want to do it, believe me. I've done it. Marco's done it. Someone else we know is going to write a book. I don't want to mention it because he's on here, but you want to write a book.
Thank you so much, Sal. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks so much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.